Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to look at setting a pop feature on the Quad Cortex, and let's start by listening to some audio snippets from my full cover, and we'll hear those now. If you want to hear the full version of that, guys, the link is in the description. And also, if you want to save your 15 minutes instead of rebuilding this, you can get the patch now from my website. The link for that is in the description. So this patch has 4 scenes, the intro, the heavy kind of bulk of the song, the quiet part, and the solo. We'll start off on scene A, and we'll just lap through all of the blocks. So for the input, it's just default 0. We'll move straight on to the pitch whammy. The reason I have this in the patch is because the original track is slightly uptuned. It's not even a half tone. It's like a in-between note. I think it was from them messing with the tape or changing the speed or something. The original song, if you listen to it and try play along with it, you're like, oh, why am I out of tune? You're not actually out of tune. It's the song itself is slightly up-pitched. So if you want to play along with the original track, you can turn on this block and it will bring you up to that pitch. I learned the song by playing it with Songster, so I just kind of leave this off, but that is there if you want to play it the original song. Looking at the splitter, these are the settings here. I believe those are default. I don't remember messing with that. Moving on to the amp block, we've got the EV101, what is that, 3S Blue EL34 100 watt. The mouthful amp. Yeah, have a look at the settings here. Pause if you need to whenever I'm looking at a block. These are the settings. We don't have a lot of bass. As usual, when we're doing like the studio track version, you want to make space for the actual bass. You can turn this up if you're jamming by yourself and practicing. A bit of bass is kind of more fun when you're playing by yourself. And then we'll just push the mids in treble, leave the presence as it is. And yeah, just that is the amp settings for you. Those don't change by scene as well, by the way. As you can see, none of them are white. In the effects loop, so what that means is it's between the amp and the cab. So on a real amp, you would have an effects loop. And basically, this is how you simulate that, is you put it between the amp and the cab. We have the MX flanger. I turned down the mix for the intro because when you listen to the intro on the original track, it sounds reasonably dry with not a lot of effects on it, but I did leave in a little bit. This is the cab we're using, the 412 Brit 60B greenback 90s. And there's just some slight position adjustment on the Dynamic 57, if I remember correctly. Moving on to the high pass filter, we've got it set here. Again, just to make space for the real bass. Looking at the mixer here, the B level is off. That's because that's left for the clean amp. Level A is, there's your volume there. That's important to grab that. After the mixer, we have got a parametric 8 EQ. The purpose of this is we are low shelving and high shelving off at the extremes. It's a good technique to use something like that before a drop. And when we drop out of the intro tapping part and into the really heavy part, it really feels like it explodes. Using this kind of thing, if you always use this at the part before the drop, if you shelve out the highs and lows, it'll make your drop just hit harder. Quick look at the reverb that's currently off on scene A. And then moving on to our general EQ. This is pretty subtle, guys. We've just low shelved off a little bit of bass again to open up for the real bass and declutter the guitar sound. We're pushing on the low mids just a little bit, just to get a little bit of meat on the guitar, but in an area that's less important for the real basses. We're going to drop out a little bit of a smiley face dip here to make space for the singing. And then we're going to push these highs. Van Halen has quite a sharp sound. This will catch all your like pick attacks, and it'll get around the fact that we've dropped these mids out. It'll still feel like the guitar is kind of present. We're not going to look at the B blocks because, like we looked at in the mixer, the B channel, the B line is currently off. We'll come back to that in a later scene. Yeah, let's give it a quick listen to see where we are so far. Yeah, so that's your intro. Moving on to scene B, we're just gonna, I guess, lap the blocks that change. I'll skip most of them because you saw them, but anything that has a scene changer we'll have a quick look at. The input doesn't change on this scene. The MX flanger, we turn it up quite a bit because we're moving away from that dry sound that we had in the intro, and it sounds a lot wetter when the drop happens. Moving on to the mixer, guys, level B is off still. That's reserved for the clean tone. Level A, you've got a little bit of a volume adjustment there, so just have a moment to take a peek at those. The parametric 8 block that we discussed in scene A has been turned off because, like we said, we want the extremes off before the drop, and then we turn off this block, and then all of those frequencies come back, and then the drop hits harder because we have those frequencies again. Looking at the reverb is not reserved for the solo in this song. It actually comes on, it's actually on for most of the song. Van Halen, unlike a lot of guitarists, he didn't like double tracking. He would fill out the sound with reverb instead of double tracking like most other guitarists would do. So you can have a look at these settings here, the mix and the decay changes in the solo, so just note those. And yeah, that's basically all the changes in the B scene. It sounds like this. So yeah, that's the heavy sound, guys. We'll move on to the quiet sound now. Looking at the input again, it's come down just a little bit. What I do on the quiet part is I come up to the rhythm pickup and I leave the rhythm pickup at like half volume. Just mess with the two of those until it's right, because when you're using a clean amp, it's very reactive to the amount of volume going into it from the guitar. So yeah, this is what I had to do. -5 on the input block here, and then like half volume on the pickup itself. And on the rhythm pickup, it's important to switch to the rhythm pickup. Looking at the mixer, level A is off. So these blocks are off here. You don't need to worry about these. We've level B up quite a bit to accommodate for the fact that we've pulled down the volume with the inputs, and the reverb is still on, but we've turned down the mix a lot. That clean sound is reasonably dry. It's not fully dry, but it's reasonably dry. Now we'll finally have a look at the B line or the B channel. The first thing we hit is this equalizer block here. This will depend a lot on your guitar. You guys might need to tweak this because basically the way the pickups interact with a clean amp, it's quite fussy. And I would say that the sound on the clean part of this song sounds, to my ears, quite stratty, even though it's not. It was actually a Gibson V on the rhythm pickup. You have to argue with the pickup a bit to get that nice, snappy, clean sound. How I got there was I pulled out a lot of the bass, which is natural on a Les Paul or like a humbuckery sound. I removed a lot of frequencies here, which were making the sound very boxy. And then we're pushing a lot of the high frequencies to get that kind of clear, stratty sound. Next thing we run into is a compressor, and you can just copy the settings here. Nothing changes by scene on the compressor, so if you want to just pause and have a look at that. It's a reasonably aggressive compressor, meaning that like we've got a 12:1 ratio. So meaning every bit of volume that goes above the threshold, it's bringing it down by 12 instead of what you'd normally get. You'd normally use something like 4 or less severe, but it just keeps I was finding it keeps it really tight and snappy, and you want the fast settings. You want like the attack and release really quick. Moving on to the amp, we've got the US Tweed Bass Lad Bright. Again, these don't change by scene because the only scene we've got this amp active on is this scene C for the quiet section. You can have a quick look at the settings there. We do use a modulation block. If you listen closely, to my ears, it sounds like a chorus or something, but again, very light. I've bought this way down. So it's only a kind of a subtle sprinkle on top of the sound. For the cab, I used the 112 US Deluxe Black C. These are always such a mouthful. C12K 2000s. And you can take a moment there to pause, copy the settings. I won't talk too much about them. I don't high pass filter this because the guitar is playing by itself, so it needs some oomph. And there's no bass in the background. I've got a slight slap back delay as well happening on this. Again, mixed low, subtle with all of the effects is better on this section because it sounds reasonably dry. So anything we're using, we're bringing it down quite a bit on the mix. We've also re-enabled the drop EQ thing right here because basically we want, again, to happen is when this turns off, when it gets heavy, we want it to really hit big. So we've re-enabled this EQ block. We've also got the reverb on here, but with a low mix again, just like with all our delays or modulation back here, the chorus. We want a low mix and brought the decay down from default just to make sure it's not overbearing. So yeah, that's everything that changed in CC, and we can have a quick listen now. Oh, and I play this section with my fingers as well, guys. I kind of hide the pick in my hand, and I'm using 3 fingers here. So this is what like you've seen under my hand. I'm using the thumb on the A string, and I'm using my index and my middle finger on the D and the G strings, and we're getting this sound. And let's wrap up with the solo on scene D. We'll lap through all of the blocks again. The input is zeroed back out. The amp is the same. The splitter is the same. The flanger is on with a high mix. The cab is the same. The mix is changed. We've dropped out level B because we've turned off the clean amp. And then we've got our volume adjustment here. They'll generally adjust between scenes. The EQ for the drops is off because we want the big sound, not the pre-drop sound. The reverb settings have been adjusted quite a bit. We're gone a lot more extreme with them. They're a lot more obvious. The mix is way up and the decay is way up. So have a quick look at those. So that's everything that changes scene-wise on the solo. We can have a little quick listen here. And that will be the entire patch, guys. Thanks for listening. If you liked the patch, guys, I've got a bunch more on the website, which is linked below. Or if you have suggestions for future videos, please let me know. And I'd love to give those a try as well. So yeah, see you next time. Have a good day.